Don't you believe God created man in the Garden of Eden?
No. Anthropology, paleontology, biology, and genetic research all point to evolution being the correct theory for the arrival of man on Earth. They also point to the fact that man originated in Africa, then traveled to Europe, Asia, and the rest of the world. For more information on evolution and the science behind it, visit Mark I. Vuletic, that's Vuletic, website, or do a search for him. The only proponent of creationism is religion, and different religions have different creation stories. You figure it out. And it doesn't make any sense. Let's go into this a little further using the Judeo-Christian creation story as an example. God tells Adam and Eve not to eat from the tree of knowledge or they will die. Genesis 2:17. 1. They eat from it and they do not die. Doesn't that mean that God lied? 2. How can they know what to die even means? Nothing has ever died anywhere in their experience. 3. How do they even know what wrong is, if it takes eating from the tree of knowledge to know the difference between right and wrong? If God knows everything that will ever happen, then when he made the Garden of Eden and placed the tree of knowledge in the very center of it and told them not to eat from it and allowed Satan to be there to tempt them, he knew at that time that they would. Remember, they were not sinners yet and like children. Yet he acted surprised, he acted angry, and punished them and all of their descendants for the rest of time. It sounds to any reasonable ear like he was just laying a trap for humanity. Also, God knows everything. He must have known that all of this was going to happen. Why did he even go through the exercise of creating man anyway if he knew it was going to fail?
If we came from monkeys, why are there still monkeys around?
Because we didn't come from monkeys. Monkeys and humans came from a common ancestor that lived several million years ago. A few million years ago, there were actually 4 or 5 distinct humanoid variations on the planet. Heck, the Neanderthals were still around only 30,000 years ago. Why don't you try studying a little anthropology if you really want to learn more about it? Do you really think that people 2,000 to 5,000 years ago knew more about human origins than we do now?
But surely you must concede that there are some things that science can't explain.
Of course, it's always been that way, and probably always will be. Just because we don't know doesn't mean some supernatural intelligent being is responsible. Carl Sagan called this human tendency to attribute to God that which we do not know as putting God in the gaps. Atheists are quite content to say that we simply don't know yet and rely on the scientific method to find the answers eventually.
How can you trust science since it's always changing what it says?
That is simply the way that science works. You conduct tests on nature and gather results. Then you retest the results with updated knowledge and techniques that improve over time. Sometimes we do get it wrong, but we're the first to admit it when it happens and continue to work on our investigations. The Church also follows scientific findings, but with about 100 to 500 year lag. In the meantime, they persecute the scientific community as heretics. Also, the scientific method, which is responsible for modern science, modern medicine, space flight, and just about every modern convenience you take for granted today, would come to a grinding halt if scientists started saying, "Oh, God did it," and stopped researching for further answers. This actually was the thought process dominant for 500 years of scientific stagnation and oppression called the Dark Ages. And don't forget, the Church changes too. The Catholic Church just did away with limbo, which it created hundreds of years ago to explain where babies went when they died.
Christian morals are founded on the Bible. How can you say you're a moral person and not believe in the Bible?
Well, first of all, human morals predate the Bible by thousands of years. They weren't invented with the 10 Commandments. It has always been against human values to be dishonest or harm or kill your fellow man or steal his possessions. Secondly, even strong Catholics and Christians cannot agree among themselves on issues like abortion, birth control, homosexuality, and women's rights. Not long ago, the Bible was used to justify slavery and deny women's rights. It's still being used to justify killing doctors who work in women's health clinics today.
How can you not believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ?
Well, rationally considered, it is a pretty outlandish claim. Nobody in the history of the world has ever done it. And outside of the Bible, there's no mention of Jesus' resurrection anywhere in historical documents. Nor is there a mention of any of the other resurrections that took place the same day. According to Matthew chapter 27, 52 to 53, quote, "And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept there came out of the graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many." End quote. You would think someone outside of the Bible would have written about that. Carrying this a bit farther, let's look at the logic of Jesus' death. 1. God is angry at us for disobeying him in the Garden of Eden and condemns us all. 2. He sends his Son to die on earth to appease himself. 3. Then he forgives only those who believe in his Son. The rest are still condemned. Or, as Pat from Saturday Night Live, Julia Sweeney, puts it, why would a God create people so imperfect and then blame them for his own imperfections? Then send his own Son to be murdered by those imperfect people to make up for how imperfect those people were and how imperfect they are inevitably going to be. I mean, what a crazy idea. Why didn't he just forgive us outright? Why did he condemn his Son to all that suffering and torment at the hands of the people he was planning to forgive just so he wouldn't send us all to hell? And if you're Catholic, it gets even stranger. God and Jesus are the same person. So in essence, he sent himself to be sacrificed to appease himself.